Hi everyone. Welcome to round 2 of the Word Masters Challenge. Today we'll be going over words 1 through 15, and we have decided to mix it up a little bit. You are more than welcome to continue to make your own flashcards if it helps you as a study tool. But instead, since we already have the Quizlet, where the link is available on Edline, today we want you to watch the video, and as you watch the video, you need to write 10 creative original sentences. And then please use the Quizlet link on Edline to study for at least 15 minutes. So between now and Wednesday the 21st, you need to study for at least 15 minutes. And please don't forget there will be a quiz on Friday, January 30th. So Friday, January 30th, there will be a quiz on words 1 through 15. Our first word is Sirocco, and it's a noun in both cases. It's a hot wind, often dusty or rainy, blowing from North Africa across the Mediterranean to southern Europe. And it can also be used to describe any kind of hot, oppressive wind, usually very humid. You might experience them a lot during the summer when you're waiting for a breeze, but all the breeze is more hot air blowing on you. That's a Sirocco. And here's a picture of a Sirocco. You can see the wind kind of forming as it heads across to southern Europe. High-handed is the next word. High-handed is a really important word when you think about the civil rights movement, when you think about what we've studied with Charles Dickens and the Poor Law. And it's an adjective that means using power or authority without considering the feelings for others. For example, the wealthy, when they developed the Poor Law, you can see this is actually an ad against the Poor Law. The wealthy were very high-handed. They did not take into account how the poor would feel. They only thought about themselves. In addition, an example that you guys might connect with, it might seem a teacher could be high-handed if they gave a ridiculous amount of homework because they're not taking into account the feelings of their students. Recur. Recur is a verb, and it means to occur again, periodically, or repeatedly. For example, themes often recur, such as the metaphor of a grenade in Bruno Mars' song Grenade, which we have all just analyzed, recurs throughout the piece. And usually when something recurs, it's because they want you to pay attention to it. Just like in Taylor Swift's, the idea of a drought recurs throughout the entire piece. Authors and writers use repetition to allow these images to recur, and they influence the theme. You could also say if you have recurring symptoms, or if symptoms recur, if you've had a nasty cough, it comes back, it goes away, it comes back, you might want to see the doctor. Larder is a noun, and it's a room or large cupboard for storing food. Kind of like a pantry. And there's a picture of one. Fervent. Fervent is an adjective, and it means showing a passionate intensity. So, for example, even though they didn't have a great season, here is a fervent Titans fan. So obviously he's very excited, very pumped, very into it. You can also, Dr. King was a fervent believer that everybody deserved equal rights. And I love this quote that he has here. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. He was a very fervent speaker, very, very passionate, very enthusiastic about what he believed in. Elicit. Elicit is a verb, and it means to draw a response from someone in reaction to one's own actions or questions. For example, police are very good, and they're trained when they're interrogating someone to elicit information by the questions they ask. And they ask certain questions to elicit responses. If you've ever dealt with a bully or just like a mean kid, sometimes they say things to you to elicit a response. Kind of like in A Christmas Carol when Scrooge's nephew kept on saying, Happy New Year, and God bless you, Uncle, and Merry Christmas. He was doing that to elicit a little bit of anger from Scrooge. And even though you might think our questions are pointless, teachers often ask questions in discussions because we want to elicit information about how much you're understanding and how well you're understanding it. Our next word is a noun, and it's aureole, and it's the circle of light or brightness surrounding something. This is often depicted in like a halo form almost, and it's best known for being related to art. around the head of our body of a person represented as holy. This is a picture right here with the baby Jesus from a church, and you can see the aureole around the three different heads of the people involved. Very common to see this in stained glass art at various churches and other places of worship. Steadfast as an adjective means resolutely or dutifully firm and unwavering. And resolutely here is important. If you remember back in A Christmas Carol, his nephew says, "I'm heartbroken to find you so resolute." In other words, I'm really sorry that you're feeling so strongly about not coming to Christmas dinner. And steadfast is a lot like staunch. It's kind of stubborn, kind of you believe one thing and you're a firm believer in that. So, for example, in the beginning, Scrooge was a steadfast believer. Here's Scrooge with his nephew. That Christmas was a humbug and a waste of time. As a teacher, I am a steadfast believer that the best lessons are when kids do most of the talking. So, steadfast means that you are firm and unwavering and very staunch in your belief. Authorize. Authorize is a lot like the word sanction, and it simply means to give permission or approval. Every year, we have to have the Christmas Carol field trip authorized by the administrators. Abyss is a noun. It's a deep or seemingly bottomless chasm or pit. And sometimes it's used literally, like the pit here, and other times it's used more figuratively. Sometimes if somebody's going through a dark time in their life, they might describe it as staring into the abyss because they might feel kind of empty. So you'll see abyss used both in a literal way, like this actual kind of cave that seems like it's bottomless, or when someone's describing how they're feeling, if they're feeling lonely, if they're feeling overwhelmed, abyss is a very popular word and metaphor to use. Profound is a very great or immense. It is an adjective. So, for example, when I was sitting with my dad in our kitchen, when the first bomb went off on Marathon Monday a few years ago, I felt this profound sense of fear for what was going on. However, a few days later, when the sports teams returned, here's David Ortiz right here, and here's the Bruins' first game back. You can see the Boston Strong logos there. I felt a profound sense of pride in my city and my country. So profound is something that's very great or intense. You may feel a profound sense of relief after you hand in a big assignment, or a profound sense of relief after you complete your recital or your concert. Siphon. Siphon is both noun and a verb, basically meaning around the same thing. The noun version is a tube used to move liquid upward from a reservoir from where it is, and a verb is to move liquid by means of a siphon. You may see sometimes if you're not careful, especially in the winter, you don't have enough gas in your car will freeze up, and then you need to siphon gas from it. So here's a picture of a guy who's siphoning gas, and he's actually creating some suction to put gas into the car and then take it out if needed to transfer it. Sometimes people will pull over and siphon some gas from their own tank to help you get enough fuel if you're in a bad situation. Torchbearer. I like torchbearer because it can be, again, just like abyss, it can be literal and figurative. The literal one is number one here as the noun. I mean, it literally means a person who carries a ceremonial torch. Very, very common to see somebody in the Olympics as a torchbearer. Usually, all of the opening ceremonies include the torchbearer coming into the Olympic Stadium and lighting the kind of the bigger torch in the middle. The more figurative meaning could be the leader of a movement. Just like Dr. King was the torchbearer of the civil rights movement, in India, Mahatma Gandhi, who's pictured here, was the leader and the torchbearer of the peaceful protest movement going on over there. And he was a big advocate for peaceful protest, not violent, just like Dr. King. And they both kind of shared ideas. So that's torchbearer, again, both as a literal sense right here, and it can be figurative right there. Impassioned is an adjective, and it means filled with or showing great emotion. For me, Some of the best coaches I've ever had, and even teachers too, know how to give like impassioned pep talks, like you could see here before the game, to really help you focus and to get you pumped up for the game. Um, and again, just like the word fervent, Dr. King was known for his impassioned speeches. I Have a Dream being the most famous of them. And foment is to instigate or stir up. Usually, it's a course of action. Recently, with some of the protesting going on across the country about police brutality, um, unfortunately, that's fomented some nasty situations and some violent acts. So, foment means to instigate or stir up. For example, the Boston Tea Party, if you remember your American history from fifth grade, here's an artist illustration of it, fomented a feeling of kind of anger towards the British, and led to ultimately the Revolutionary War. Was part of the Revolutionary War. You can also foment someone into a fight if you kind of instigate them or get under their skin. So there's foment for you. Okay, thanks for watching. Don't forget that your homework due this Wednesday, the 21st, is to write 10 creative original sentences with these words. Use the Quizlet link on Edline to study for at least 10 minutes, and there will be a quiz on Friday, the 30th. Don't be surprised if there's a little check-in quiz on the 21st to make sure that you've watched the video and you have been studying. Hint, hint.